Welcome to Addiction, Depression, Recovery. My name is Aaron, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm a little over 1 year sober, and I quit smoking cigarettes a few months ago as well. It took me a long time to learn that I have such an addictive personality, and it took even longer to come to terms with that and do something about it. This is the first in what will be a very long series of videos about addiction, depression, and how you can change things for the better. First of all, I am not a mental health professional or a drug counselor. I'm just a guy who had to find a way to stop drinking, and I hope that my story will help other people who are going through the same thing. Whatever your addiction is, whatever you're personally struggling with, you can do something about it, and I hope that I can help. I don't know if anyone will ever see these videos. Maybe no one will, maybe one person will, maybe 10, maybe 1,000, maybe 1,000,000. Maybe it's not about who sees them. Maybe I just want to put my story out there into the ether, and in doing so get it out of my head and my heart so it can't weigh me down anymore. Either way, here we go. I started drinking and partying when I was pretty young, about 13 or so, though I can't really remember the exact age I started. I think at some point drinking just became so ingrained in my life that it seemed like it had always been there, and there was no longer a distinction between when I started drinking and before. I coasted through high school, always just barely hitting the minimum requirements like any functioning alcoholic will manage to do. I was always drunk or high on something, both at school and at home, but my friends were as drunk or high as I was, and my family didn't really notice. I should say that I have a terrific family that I love very much, and this is not one of those stories where I was drinking to get away from a horrible family life or some kind of abuse. To be honest, I didn't know why I was drinking, and I couldn't have told you if you had asked me, because I'd never thought about it. Alcohol became a need rather than a desire for me immediately, and there wasn't time to think about why or if it was a good idea. I was just thinking about getting another drink. I graduated high school, but barely. Now my time opened up and I could party non-stop. I also got a job and started going to the local community college, but I didn't make it through my first semester there. I missed classes because I drank too much and slept in. I skipped classes to go to parties with friends, and I was kicked out of every class I had enrolled in before the semester was even halfway over. Even the music classes, the ones I was genuinely interested in, couldn't keep my attention away from drinking long enough for me to see what I was doing to myself. I was too busy thinking about getting another drink. I did manage to keep my job at a burger place, but I was calling in a few days a month to sleep off a hangover. There were days I'd go out back of the restaurant every 20 or 30 minutes to throw up and then head back in and get back to work. I was still functioning, but not well, and my health wasn't doing well either, though I somehow chose not to see that, because thinking about it would have given me a reason to think about not drinking, and I wasn't ready to consider that. I was too busy considering getting another drink. I met a girl at that burger place, and she and I celebrated our 10-year anniversary not too long ago. I don't think I'd have ever had the strength to get sober if it wasn't for her. She watched me go through the worst parts of my life, and now hopefully she can watch me go through the best parts too. The new, clean, and sober parts, where I can focus on what's really important instead of focusing on getting another drink. I spent a good number of years hopping from job to job, never really applying myself, always just scraping by the way I'd always done. I got arrested for stealing petty cash from a company where I worked as a delivery driver. That's the kind of decision I was making at that time. I didn't really need the money, but taking it let me party harder and more often, and when your priorities are as skewed as mine were, that takes precedence over logic and morals and thought. I didn't consider the effect it would have on my relationship or employment or friendships or conscience. I didn't have a thought to spare for any of that. I was just thinking about getting another drink. The worst thing about that was that, of course, it did weigh on my conscience, and it's easiest to just drink those kinds of things away rather than confront them, and boy did I ever drink those thoughts away. Day and night, beer and whiskey, I obliterated those thoughts, and a lot of others in the process. Over time, I forgave myself, I think. Or maybe I just couldn't really remember where my head was at when it happened, and so I couldn't contextualize it in a way that felt like I was responsible for it, like so much of my life. Either way, life went on as it does, and so did my drinking. I'm a musician, and I regularly play shows, which means I go to a lot of bars. And I can confidently say that I've spent more money at the bars while playing shows than I've ever made back in payment for playing those shows. I also work as a bartender. Are you starting to see a theme here? Almost like every part of my life was gravitating towards alcohol. Not in a way that I was aware of course, but looking back, it's like I just wanted to be close to drinks and close to drinking as much as possible. Every night I'd get a bottle and finish it after work, and every morning I'd get up, I'd throw up, and I'd start thinking about getting another drink. Then the trip to the hospital came. I don't remember the official medical term, but I'd thrown up so much and so violently for so long that I had a small tear in the connection between my stomach and esophagus. Basic summary: you need to stop drinking immediately. You could do serious damage to your digestive system. You must not throw up anymore. But the doctor sounded like one of the grown-ups from Charlie Brown. It all went in one ear and out the other. I sat in the hospital and looked at the beautiful but teary-eyed face of the woman I love and nodded my head while the doctor told me what I needed to do. But I was already thinking about getting another drink, despite what it was doing to me and to her and to my job and my life and my relationships and my future and my happiness and everything. So help me, I was thinking about getting another drink. I'm not sure how much longer I drank for after that, but I did cut back some, at least when people were watching. She was worried about me, and I love her, so I didn't want her to worry. The obvious solution would have been to quit drinking. Instead, I just hid it so she wouldn't worry, because lying to her was more acceptable to me than stopping. Looking back, it was lunacy, but at the time it felt like the only choice I had. Small bottles were easier to hide and discreetly throw away, and I could finish one and not throw up in the morning. Hey, problem solved, right? Stop puking, no damage to the old gut. Cut back on drinks at the shows. Stop going to the bars with friends. I had become one of those closet alcoholics hiding whiskey in the house to drink late at night alone. I can see what I was. I didn't want to, but you can't ignore the elephant in the room forever. I still couldn't bring myself to say the word, but I was an alcoholic and barely a functioning one. I wasn't eating properly or sleeping properly. I was mainly just thinking about getting another drink. And then finally, it happened. The thing that must happen for everyone if they're going to stop drinking. I don't know if you call it a breakthrough or rock bottom or just waking up, but finally it hit me. I had called in for my shift at work because I was just too hungover. Beyond hungover, in fact. I had drank and drank and drank the night before. There was a second trip to the liquor store involved. I had overdone it again. My stomach hurt. I was throwing up, and that hurt too. I was crying and shaking, and there was snot hanging out of my nose, and my face was both too red and too white all at once. My lips were too pale, so they blended in with my skin, and my eyes were bloodshot, and tiny capillaries all over my face had burst in patches, changing my complexion to somewhere between Elmo and the color of a fresh scab. I finally crawled back into bed, curled up into a ball, and wondered for a while if I was going to die like this. I didn't think I was going to die that day. I hadn't drank that much, but eventually. Was this how it would be for me forever? I knew I was smarter than this. Why had I never stopped to think about it before? Why couldn't I see? Why couldn't seeing her so upset and worried about me change anything? Why couldn't the doctor's advice change anything? Why couldn't I change anything myself? Well, that's when it hit me. I could change it. I could change it right now. She came home, and she sat on the bed and told me again that I had to stop. But this time, I heard her. And I think for the first time in a while, I really saw her. And it stuck into me like an arrow, and I knew I could do it. Once and for all, I could do it. And I did. There's more, a lot more. The story of my past could go on for another hour if I let myself keep talking. I could tell you about all the times I drove drunk before I finally got arrested for driving drunk. I could tell you how the arrest should have made me realize I had a problem, but it didn't. I could tell you about all the other drugs that I've had problems with over the years. I could tell you about the stupid things I did while I was drunk, the fights I got into, and the problems that I caused. And the worry story I created in the people who care about me. I could tell you 1,000 stories, and they'd mirror a million stories that all of you out there could tell me right back. But I think you see the picture pretty clearly now. That's the goal of this channel, I think, clarity. I want to see things clearly, and I want you to see things clearly. I want to live the best life that I can, and I want you to do the same. I spent a lot of time looking through a dirty, foggy piece of glass at my life so that it still looked clean and healthy by comparison. But let's call a spade a spade. My name is Aaron, and I'm an alcoholic. And you know what? That's fine with me. I'll never drink again, but I'll still be an alcoholic. And maybe, since that's what I am, I can help other people see what they are too. Because when you can see clearly, you can do something about it. Everyone has their own story, thousands, millions, billions of stories, and I bet a lot of them have a lot of things in common. My story's not special. I'm not famous or rich. There was no accident when I got my DUI. I never killed anyone or ruined any life besides my own. But maybe every story is special if sharing it can help someone else share their story too. And maybe their story inspires someone else to share theirs. And maybe through the lens of all of our stories together, we can all see more clearly. And when we can see clearly, then we can do something to change what we see. Thank you for watching. I hope this helped. I know it helped me. This has been Addiction, Depression, Recovery. And remember, we do heal.